everyone, welcome to another Ashram Talks session. The title of the class today is based on the song Can't Get No Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones, but the point is that this topic of searching for happiness, fulfillment, satisfaction is so relevant that it has actually inserted itself into pop culture for decades. So we're going to explore why all of these feelings seem kind of fleeting, right? And why it seems like we're always searching for the next thing that's going to make us feel happy or satisfied. So, to join us today in this discussion, we have Haripriya Benedict. Welcome, Haripriya. Thanks for joining us again.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course, whenever you're ready.
All right, we'll jump right in. So today we're doing Bhagavad Gita chapter 3, text 40. And I'll just say a prayer to my teacher, my spiritual teachers, for their blessings so that we can get some clarity and open that channel up. Om Jnana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So, Colleen, your dedication is inspiring. Thank you for being here. I think the fact that you're here regularly, it's very strong. It's a strength in your life, and I'm grateful to have you. So this is actually a very exciting topic for me. I'm gonna just read it, and we'll dive in. And I will mention that there's gonna be like the word lust. We're gonna go there, but that's like a trigger word for some people, and so we're gonna kind of like peel it back and understand what are we even talking about here. And actually, for those of you who've been listening, thank you. And for those of you who've been listening, we've been covering this for a few days, more like a few weeks, because it's been a few verses on Mondays and Thursdays. And so I'm going to refer back to a couple of the verses because they're relevant to understanding this one. The senses, the mind, and the intelligence are all the sitting places of this lust, which veils the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. So in the previous verses, actually, Krishna says, well, Arjuna asks a very important question. He says, why do we do things like as if we're compelled to do them and we don't even want to, like snacking at midnight or scrolling on your phone or things that you don't really want to do. They don't make you feel good, but you just are like compelled to do them as if by force, is what Arjuna says. And then Krishna says, it's lust alone that is triggering that. And it goes deeper in the purports that Srila Prabhupada has, how the love that we have intrinsically as spirit souls, the love that we have, the relationship that we have with our source, as soon as we're here on this material planet, as soon as we're in contact with matter, it gets transformed into a hankering or a lust, meaning like you want something, you're craving something, you need something, you're trying to fill something. And so we'll dive into this a little bit more deeply, but ultimately that's the key. Right. So in that song, we can't get any satisfaction, right? None of us can. I can't get no satisfaction, but I try. We're trying so hard. We're trying with this goal, or we're trying with that goal, or we're trying with this just to fill ourselves. And so the key to change that, to transform that, is igniting our love, actually, because in Krishna says that for me, I was reading over it last night. I thought that's the golden ticket. That's the key to transforming our experience, is that understanding that our love is what was transformed into our wanting when we came in this material plane. And so now we're misidentifying with matter. We're misidentifying with our bodies and our senses and even our mind. The mind is like a computer, right? It's just thoughts that come in. And then there's intelligence. So he's saying lust, if you know where it is, then you can notice it. And the self, the conscious self, can start to notice when it's in the mind, notice when it's in the intelligence. And so he's sharing now, these are the sitting places for this desire, this hankering, this like wanting to fill something that you want more, you want to be satisfied. Ultimately, on some level, we're searching for satisfaction. And it veils our real knowledge. So when we're hankering and we're just trying to fill that, we have a veil. Which, what does a veil do? Right? It covers you. There's like a layer, but it's not completely, it's not like a veil is thin enough to see through. It's not so thick that you can't see. So it veils you, which means you have a choice. You have a choice to see through the illusion, to see through the hankering, and when we refer to the word lust, I'll say like the insatiable, constant wanting, right? You're just wanting something more, like you attain a goal and then you want something else. So it says it veils the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. And so I'm going to go into this purport, but before I do, I wanted to ask a question. Do you remember a time? Do you remember a time that you wished for something, prayed for something, worked for something, and you attained it? So just take a moment, think about this. Anytime in your history of like you wanted something and you attained that thing and it gave you happiness, pleasure, some satisfaction. And now I'll ask, hopefully you've found something. And if not, you can keep going until you find something. Are you thinking about that thing right in your day-to-day now? Like, how aware are you of that achievement, of that thing that you wanted so badly and you received? And now maybe it's weeks later, months later, years later. Is it filling you? Or have you even forgotten it? Is it something you don't think about much? And so that points to when he says, I can't get any satisfaction and I'm trying, because we've achieved things, right? We've achieved things. And then we want more. Our minds go to something else and something else and something else. And that's where it says, it bewilders him. We're bewildered. We're like, some people could say it's the hamster on the rat race, in the rat race. But even people who are like, I'm not going to be the hamster on the rat race, working so hard, I'm going to work smart. Still, they might achieve something and then they want something else. And so the reason is you're not matter. You're not made of your senses. You are not made of material. You're something completely beyond matter, and you've forgotten who that is. So you're a spirit soul, which means you're a child of God, which means your birthright is joy, happiness, satisfaction. Your birthright is feeling supported, loved, sheltered, inspired, enlivened. Your birthright is strength, peace, serenity, enthusiasm, vigor, life force, right? And so I was meditating on this earlier, and I was meditating on, if we identify with who we really are. Yes, having beautiful children, now they've left home. Yes, they've left home, and God wants us back, but we have some desires. And so actually this entire planet is like a playground where you can play and make believe anything you want. You're living in matter, and you can make believe and create anything you want. But actually the child wants to go back home in the end, right? After you play on the playground, you make believe with your friends, but then you want to go with your real mom and your real dad and your real, maybe brothers and sisters or cousins, so it's, you want to go back to the real world. You don't want to stay in the pretend world, in the make believe world. But the reason the reason humans experience feeling like they can't get any satisfaction means they're still only on the playground. They're still only in that illusion. They're still only make believing that they are like, that I'm Haripriya. And I know it's hard to understand this. And the only way I understand it is by reading Bhagavad Gita and chanting God's names. Like, by chanting God's names, my consciousness is purified, and it's like a miracle happens. My consciousness opens and the veil is lifted, and then I get realizations, almost like as a blessing, right? So when we do anything in contact with spirit, then we get reciprocation, and that reciprocation opens up our consciousness so that we can actually experience something else. So I don't remember it 24/7. It's not a permanent realization of mine, but I've definitely had moments where I'm very clear. I am this tiny, powerful, beautiful spark within this body. And I'll go to something maybe a little extreme for some people, but like if you see an ant walking, that ant is alive. So matter is actually not a living force. Spirit is the living force. So if that ant is walking and it's alive, there's spirit inside of that ant that allows it to move. And in the same for this body. So sometimes I meditate like that. Like I'm tinier, but just to get some understanding, I'm as tiny as an ant. And I'm thinking, I'm in this huge body. I'm not Haripriya. I'm not a human. I'm a spirit soul, but I'm in this human body. So now how do I want to use this body with that kind of a consciousness that I don't lack anything, right? Even in the Bible, you'll want nothing. You'll lack nothing as a child of God. So who am I really? My birthright is bliss, happiness, satisfaction, love, power, gentleness, intelligence, all these amazing qualities. And then I'm in this body. And then as soon as I'm in this body, as soon as I identify with this body, I forget who I really am. And now I'm living based on my mind and my senses. So my senses are wanting things. I want this, I want to eat this, I want to see that, I want to enjoy this new experience, I want to go on vacation, I want to, and I'm not saying any of that is wrong or bad. It's just the reality, right? We're in these bodies and these bodies want things. And then if we identify with that, like that's me, that's the means to happiness, then we're on a never-ending quest and we're never going to feel a deep satisfaction because we're misidentifying. So the root of our experience is that misidentification. So if we can change our consciousness, you don't have to change your circumstances. Circumstances may change because things go from subtle to gross. So based on our consciousness and our awareness of that we are actually safe, we are supported, we are loved, like our consciousness of that, right, can eliminate a lot of fear and anxiety that we experience in this realm, this modern world. And so the outsides might change, but if we're trying to change the outside so that we can experience something on the inside, we're fighting a losing battle because it's flipped. It's not that the outside creates the inside is creating the outside. And so the power is in what is your real desire? What are your real desires? And I invite you as an exercise today to sit with yourself and really ask and maybe have a conversation with God where you're asking, like, what do I really want? Like as a spirit soul, maybe you don't know what that is, what that means, what that feels like, but like, okay, let's really put our imagination on and say, if I'm not this body and I'm not this, this limited identity of this lifetime with this group of people, because if we've had lives, we've had millions of lives. We've had millions of mothers and fathers and husbands and wives and friends and siblings and children. And so let's peel all that off for just 10 minutes today. Let's peel all that off and say, okay, I'm actually not those things. I'm not the identities of this body. I am not this body. I'm not this body. I'm not Colleen. I'm not Haripriya. I'm not Sienna. Let's just try that on for 10 minutes and then ask the questions. Okay, so if I'm a spirit soul, if I'm a child of God, if I'm a part of God, if I'm intrinsically like happy and loved and joyful and satisfied, now from that place, what do I desire? And who knows what will come? It's your work, it's your experience. But then if you're coming from that place and really sitting quietly and really asking that question and asking it to God, like, help me get clarity, like what actually do I want? What actually is going to bring me satisfaction? How am I actually designed? What's my nature? How can I flow with my actual nature? Not matter, not the nature that we've been given by this material body, right? Like my nature in this body is very passionate, but my nature as a soul is satisfied, is content, and maybe from there is inspired to do all kinds of things. But the being is starting, right? We've talked about 3 paradigms of life, like be, do, have, and have, do, be. So the reason we're not satisfied is because we're living in have, do, be. If I have this, then I can do what I want, and then I'll be happy, fulfilled, free, satisfied, whatever. But it's an illusion because we're starting with the consciousness that we're not satisfied, happy, and free. And so if we're not, then we can have whatever, we can have this thing and do this thing. But our essential message to ourselves is, if the message is I need to have this or do this to feel happy or satisfied, the essential message is I'm not happy and satisfied. And so whatever temporary achievement we get, it'll never fulfill us because it doesn't last, right? We're on to the next idea. So if we can flip it and go from the inside out instead of the outside in, then we go, okay, let me connect to that. If I'm a spirit soul, I am satisfied. I don't need anything to be satisfied. And then from there, what do I want to do? And naturally, having and doing will come, right? It's not that there's no goals. There are goals. But if the goals are a means to achieve our satisfaction, we're frustrated. If they're an expression of our understanding of who we really are, then that's the ticket to true bliss and to truly living your nature, like living your soul, living from your soul, from your consciousness of who you are. And from there, all kinds of things can happen. You can still have the exact same goals, but you've switched your consciousness, that now the goals are no longer needed or required for you to connect to your intrinsic godlike qualities. Rather, you've connected to your godlike qualities. And from that, then the goals are an expression of your true self. So, and we've spoken about that a bit, but I'm going to read Prabhupada's purport, Srila Prabhupada's purport. So, and he says the enemy. So earlier in the text, actually, I'll reverse back to some of the other texts. So in 39, it says, man's pure consciousness is covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and burns like fire. And that's what we're talking about. It's never satisfied. So the eternal enemy. Now, later in the purport too, he talks about it being an enemy because, let's see if I can find the spot. This lust is the symbol of ignorance by which the living entity is kept within the material world. So it's an enemy because we're identifying with that. And when we identify with that, we forget ourselves. When we identify with our desires, our hankerings, our wanting, what we're going to call lust, a wanting, then we forget ourselves. And if we forget ourselves, that's where true misery and true suffering and frustration come, is the forgetting yourself. So that's why he's stating that. So now in the purport here on 40, we're going back to text 40, he refers to this enemy. He calls it the enemy. And he's talking about that constant wanting and hankering. The enemy has captured different strategic positions in the body of the conditioned soul. So you're a soul and you're in this body, it's conditioned. And therefore, Lord Krishna is giving hints of those places so that one who wants to conquer the enemy, one who wants to conquer this distraction, basically this lust, this hunger, this hankering that has now, hijacked our actual trajectory, ultimately. One who wants to conquer this enemy may know where he can be found. So it can be found in the mind, it can be found in the senses, and it can even be found in the intelligence. So the mind is the center of all activities of the senses, and thus the mind is the reservoir of all ideas of sense gratification. And as a result, the mind and the senses become the repository of lust. So that means whatever we see when we're in contact with nature, whatever we see, whatever we watch, we're scrolling, oh, look at that person, they're a millionaire. Oh, look at this person, they're this or that, or they're in Hawaii, or, oh, they have 7 kids, or whatever it is. Srila Vishnu Maharaj said, actually, when we see those things, that ignites a desire in us. That contact, right, ignites, a hankering, a lust, a desire in us for that thing. And so then once we have that hankering and that desire, the mind it's like the mind since you were born has seen so many things. And so it's a repository for lust, because it's a repository for like thousands of desires, thousands of ideas of, oh, if I had that, then I would be happy. And that's the illusion again. If I had that, have, do, be, I have to have something to be. But no, we are beings. We don't need to have that thing to experience our essence, to experience our vibrancy, to experience satisfaction. And that's the illusion. So he says here, you can see it. So you can see it in your mind. You can even stop and listen to your mind. 5-10 minutes, think. That could be another exercise. Like, I'll sit today and think, what are all the millions of desires my mind has? And like list them and just like, wow, like look at them. And the illusion is that any one of those is actually going to give you satisfaction. But again, I want you to remember the times you had desires. Maybe you wanted something and you already have it. Has it fulfilled you deeply, permanently? And just start to look at those. Start to remember other experiences where you wanted something, you got it. And then how is it affecting and impacting your life now? And it's not to say we shouldn't have goals, right? Goals are different than thinking the illusion that having these things are going to give us happiness. So he says it's the repository. It means it's the holding place of so many desires. Next, the intelligence department becomes the capital of such lustful propensities. Intelligence is the immediate next door neighbor for the spirit soul. So our intelligence is crucial here. And if our intelligence also has a lot of desires or misconceptions that if I achieve X, Y, and Z, then I can be happy, then I can live happily ever after. That's dangerous. So we have to instead educate our intelligence, read Bhagavad Gita, and educate our intelligence to know, actually, I'm going to live happily ever after as soon as I wake up from the illusion that I'm this body. I want to wake up from the illusion that I'm this body. I want to know who I am. I want to know that I'm a soul. I want to realize it, right? When I sit with myself and I ask the questions I mentioned, that's what comes for me. I end up saying, as a soul, not a body, not Haripriya, not my mind full of desires and conditioning from thousands of years or even at least 45 years. What do I want as a soul? What comes for me is usually like, I want truth. And I want realized awareness that I'm not the body. I want realized awareness that I'm a soul. And so he says the intelligence is the next door neighbor for the spirit soul. So lusty intelligence influences the spirit soul to acquire the false ego. And that gets dangerous, and identify itself with matter and with the mind and the senses. The spirit soul becomes addicted to enjoying material senses and mistakes it as true happiness. So like, to me, that's so important here, where it says the spirit soul acquires a false ego to identify with matter to enjoy, right? So actually we take on, and ego is fine, right? Ego is different than false ego. Ego is your identity, right? And you can be for example, there's misunderstanding. So I want to clarify a little. You can be a confident person and not have false ego, right? So false ego is the misidentification with, like, let's say our goals. Sometimes the false ego is like, we think we're the doer, right? So we haven't quite gotten the realization that, and I mentioned this in another class, but everything is sanctioned by material energy, right? And I'm not going to go into it in depth, but there's people who can't use their arm because they're paralyzed. So if you can use your right arm, it's being sanctioned. It's being permitted. And so to have the illusion that means I'm the one moving my right arm, it's natural. It's totally 99.9% of the population probably have that way of thinking, but it is a misconception. Because actually the soul that we are within this body, within this machine, right? Earlier in the Gita, he talks about the body being like a machine, made of material energy, and that we're sitting in this machine operating it. And how are we operating it? Our desires, our will. We have desires and will, and then the material and elements and the body act from that. The mind instructs and the body responds, but we're not the body. So we have to start to notice when the material ego comes, because that means then, there's intelligence has been kind of hijacked. When we really misidentify with the material ego, thinking like I'm the doer, or pride, they say pride comes before a fall. So we can accomplish huge things. I mean, I won't even go into examples because they're endless. And we can remember that we co-created that maybe as a service. And so that is our nature. We're going to always serve something. If you look around, we're always serving something. We're serving animals, dogs, our pets. We're serving our family, our friend, our loved ones. We're serving our senses, our body. We're serving our desires. We're serving God. We're serving our source. We're serving nature. We're serving politics, society, religions. Like, we can serve so many things. And so we're always serving, right? That's intrinsically part of what the soul wants to do. Actually, it wants to be of value. It wants to be of service. It wants to be a contributor. And so that's our nature. That's our very nature. So when we identify with the self, we're going to naturally do things, and we might even do very large things in the world. But if the consciousness is, I'm doing this as a service, I'm doing this as an offering, and it's sanctioned by greater powers than me, so that there's a co-creation. There's not like, I manifested. It's like, that's false ego. The I manifested it. Oh yeah, you manifest that you can't die. Manifest that you won't get diseases. Manifest that you're, whatever. Manifest all your goals. So there's sometimes this illusion that I'm doing it alone. Now, we can co-manifest, we can co-create, because we need to participate, right? It's not just going to happen on autopilot, but when we participate with our will, our clarity, and our desires, and we offer it in service, then we're going to get satisfaction. Then we're going to experience satisfaction. Then we're in the flow of our actual nature, our actual dharma of loving service and love and offering value and offering contribution. And we're in that flow, and our consciousness is properly positioned where we don't have the illusion that we're the body, and we don't have the illusion that we're the doers, because we know that blessings have to come, grace have to come. We're not necessarily even responsible for the results, right? In Bhagavad Gita, that's another very deep topic, but Bhagavad Gita says that we don't even have a right to the results, to enjoy the fruits of the results. We have a right to the work, because we have these desires, and everything else is carried out in a sense by nature. Even our qualities and our abilities in this body that we have, they're a gift, and they can be taken away. I've experienced it where I won't go into details on that, but it's a gift. So to conclude today, we can get satisfaction. We can get satisfaction, and it's a matter of changing our consciousness. And the way to change our consciousness is to read Bhagavad Gita and to hear from people who have realizations. Whatever we're around rubs off on us. So to hear from, Vishnu Maharaj, these sannyasis that are in our lives, there's so many saintly people on the planet. There's, from any faith, from Christianity, from Judaism, from the Hare Krishna philosophy, any people who are actually realized, to hear from them, that gives us realizations. It'll wake us up, because the soul wakes up from hearing, actually, just like you wake a sleeping person from hearing. So that's the way to get satisfaction, is to flip the script, connect to be, do, have. Be, what is your being? Sit with yourself. Who are you really, and what do you really want from the soul? And then live from there. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you so much, Haripriya. I think we could create like 10 discussions out of everything that you shared today. So I guess just to kind of summarize or go back like you said, this word lust can be a trigger word, or it has like a lot of connotations associated with it.
Mm.
Within the Vedic perspective, what are we, referring to? Like, what does that word lust
Mm.
carry in the context of the Bhagavad Gita and what we're talking about?
Mm. Um, so sometimes the first one easily is obviously like a sexual, wanting some enjoyment from the senses, wanting to enjoy sex, right? Lust in the modern day is wanting to enjoy sex. So now the thing about that is that's wanting to enjoy through our bodies, right? That's done through the body. It's not done through the soul. So that's one experience. But even like overeating is wanting to enjoy from the tongue, right? Or even what, it can be, it can be any desires. It can be any desires that are for the senses, which means, the fingers. I mean, it can be like enjoying through the hands, enjoying through the eyes, enjoying through the mouth, enjoying in any of the senses, through any of the senses. And it intrinsically means something that's not spiritual, because spirit is not the body and the senses, right? So that's the distinction. So lust is, it captures us, and it captures our intention. And I will share that Srila Prabhupada actually also said that the senses to some degree need to be satisfied to some degree, right? So means like you don't like starve yourself because you're like, I'm not going to enjoy my tongue. I mean, that's foolishness to some degree, because that's not the point. The point is to reawaken our love, to transform this hankering to enjoy an experience through our body, and understand that it's our desire to experience, to have a delicious experience from our soul, right? So Srila Prabhupada isn't saying like, don't use your material senses at all. No, he talks about yukta vairagya, which means transform and dovetail it. So like, instead of cooking just for your senses, like, oh, I'm going to make this key lime pie and I'm going to eat it all up, right? That would be just lust. And because there's different degrees of lust. So I'm going to use the word as like anything that's enjoying through the senses. But if I say like, okay, I want to eat a key lime pie, my senses want to eat a key lime pie, and I want to yukta vairagya it. I want to dovetail it in a way that my soul is also, I'll say, growing or awakening or engaged. So then I can make this key lime pie and think, oh, this is something that I love, that I value, and I can ask God if he would like some. Now, everything is possible. It means like if you say like, Krishna, would you like some key lime pie? It's not necessarily like, oh yeah, he wants key lime pie. He wants the fact that we love this thing and we're offering it to him. And so it has value to us. And so that is a loving exchange. That's a soul to God experience. And as you offer that and you actually feel love, you start to get more awakened to the reality that God is real, that God is a real personality, and that you can actually serve God personally, and that one day you could actually be in the spiritual realm making a key lime pie and offering it to Radharani and Krishna. So we're engaging our soul. So that's very different than like, I'm going to just never eat sweets again. I don't eat sweets because that's lust. I don't use the tongue, because now we've offered that key lime pie, and then it becomes something called prashadam, which means like we've offered it with love, and God's felt our love and he's accepted our offering. Because in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, I mean, it needs to be a vegetarian offering, but he says, offer me a fruit, a leaf, a flower with love and devotion, and I will accept it. So he accepts it. And in accepting it, it becomes like his leftovers, they say his remnants, but it's like if you give someone a piece of cake and they eat it and then you eat it, you're eating something they accepted, that there's love there. So it becomes sweeter, actually. It's just like you're eating what's called prashadam. Prashadam means food that's offered to God. So God's accepted it. Now the food itself becomes spiritualized. So now when you eat that spiritualized food, you're not only feeding your senses, you're feeding your soul. So for me, lust is anything that is, it's like completely distinct from feeding the soul. It's only for the senses, and it has nothing to do with the soul.
Yeah, thank you so much for clarifying that. And thank you for touching on goals too, because I know sometimes you think, like, well, if I'm supposed to live a spiritual life, then, like, what is the point of anything? Like, let me just quit my job and, like, sell my house. Like, what is the point? But I like that you said, we can still have those goals, but they're not going to define who we are. They can be, kind of an expression of who we really are. And we can offer those goals. So I really appreciate you touching on that also.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a balance, but I mean, I think conversations with God are probably the best way to get more clarity. Because even I sit and go like, well, wait a minute, is that material or is that spiritual? Or can I transform this, or should I walk away from it? Right? Like it's a process. We get to ask those questions in sincerity, and we'll get real answers. So yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. And we have this great comment from Colleen. She said, beautiful class, spirit soul that is satisfied, small like an ant of a spirit in this body, in this world. That's a playground. I'm sorry I said that weird. Yeah, but good to zoom out. I agree. Yeah, we definitely need to zoom out and put things in perspective. And I think that your discussion was really helpful for all of that today. So thanks again for joining us, and to everyone who is watching. This is our 86th Bhagavad Gita class. So if you liked what you were listening today, we have 86 classes just like this, kind of going through the Gita verse by verse, and all of the ones that are ahead of us. So definitely feel free to check those out. And I think they all kind of put things into context, right, as we move through these different topics. All right. Well, thank you so much, Haripriya. We look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you.